And we're live. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Hanging with Homies with my homies, Kevin Logan, Kristi Winters,
Hello.
and Owen Macdonald. You guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves if you like.
Hello. I didn't realize there was a that we were back with. I didn't realize there was a hanging out with homies to begin with. So I'm really happy to be part of the series.
This is like a fan favorite, Kristi. You've obviously don't know where you've been.
Well, I've been on marches. That's where I've been.
True story. You've actually been making a change in the world, and rather than sitting in your underwear at your computer like I do all the time. So
Well,
that was Kristi.
Yes.
glad to be here. Nice debut on this series, I guess. So
Yeah, it's good
yeah,
to have you with us,
definitely.
Owen.
And I'm Osama bin Laden's slightly less terroristy brother.
A giant floating hairy head. Yeah, cool. So we organized this hangout because we've just come to know Owen, and we wanted to kind of have a bit of a chat about various things because there's been a lot of stuff going on in the past couple of days, I suppose. And so wanted to kick it off by talking about Sargon of Akkad, our favorite man thing, and his I'm going to say doxing because that's what I thought, what I think it was. But we're going to kind of talk about what we think doxing, how that kind of works into the whole doxing wheelhouse as well. But in case some of you who've been living under a rock or something haven't known what Sargon got up to, he posted out a tweet of a woman from a store that he was visiting in town somewhere. He just randomly took a photo of this woman and then posted it to his Twitter. And we wanted to talk about the implications of such a thing. So, what do you guys think?
Maybe call on us, Michael, because then we don't have to try to talk to each other.
Kristi, go for it.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, first of all, obviously I should preface this by saying I've been accused of doxing. It's something that I did not do, and there seems to be a lot of rumors going around that I did. And quick plug for anyone who doubts that statement that I just made, I have 3 videos on my channel. They all bearing in the title. You can go and watch very well documented evidence, including a hangout with Mr. Kevin Logan, where we go over the evidence quite thoroughly that it demonstrates I could not have been the one who gave the information that it was cobalt cat. Sorry, cobalt cat. Anyway, coming onto this. Is this doxing? Well, if you look at a definition of doxing, it talks about releasing people's personal information or information about them with malicious intent. It's designed to provoke and create trouble. And that's precisely what it did in this woman's real life, and not just in social media. It spilled over into IRL. So clearly, if the information was acted upon and the person experienced things in their real life, then it was doxing. And it kind of doesn't matter whether or not Carl intended to dox or not. The result of it was somebody in their real life got hassled because of his tweet and what he did. So I don't think that there's any doubt about whether or not this was doxing. This is, doxing far more, than other claims of doxing have been, like with people having their emails buried, addresses buried in some back corner of their channel on their about page or whatever else, claiming that they doxed themselves. He's got a massive audience and he shit posts on Twitter. He basically, his thing on Twitter, at least a part of it, is to point out things to his followers to hate on, whether that's topics or news articles or people. And that's what he did here. So I don't really buy this claim that he took the picture to highlight the company, because he took what was a highly unflattering picture with a person whose body type he often makes fun of, people who have this particular attribute. And it's in line with the other kinds of ways that he's used people's images without their permission in the past. It's just this time he made the mistake of identifying the location and the business and the persons. It was the trifecta that allowed people to literally triangulate the information in order to target a single individual. That's doxing. So I'll stop here because I could probably keep going, but I'll let other people have a breath. Or I have
Just
a
a,
chance.
just quickly, so I watched his because he made an apology video, right? And one of the things that he said, what did he say? Um, oh, he said, "This is why I tweeted out." I'm not going to say the words because it's the doxing, but word in city. That was the thing that he tweeted at the top of it. And then he said, "This is why I tweeted out that employee with feminist T-shirt." And I'm like, "Wait a second, no, that's not what you did at all." He was trying to say that his the thing that he was doing was like a political statement that the store were making this political statement by making their employees wear a feminist shirt, and his tweet was like a protest against that, and that's why he tweeted out the thing that he did. But he didn't do that. He tweeted the name of this the place where this woman worked and a picture of her, and he's like, "Oh, it seemed obvious to me that that's what I was saying," and I'm like, I don't know,
But
mate.
Michael, Carl would never put out a tweet with no context and then become really offended when people give a plain reading to what he posted on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, he should. It seems like after like what Ahmed Skeptic was saying about being really surprised at the way that people were talking to Shoe on Head, and this happening, it's it's so like, do you seriously not know what these audiences get up to? Are you that fucking like stupid slash blind? You know, do you just put stuff online and then completely ignore everything that happens after that? It seems so. Are you serious? And it seems to me that these people need to become more aware, if they aren't already, about the things that happen when they post stuff, and then be more responsible. Basically, I mean, yeah. Sorry, a bit of
Well,
go for it, on.
I think that there's clearly an issue here, because for someone like Sargon to be unaware of the scale of the audience he has, and then to be posting random pictures of like people he's found around places on his Twitter I don't believe there's a naivety to that. I'd have said that he's clearly displays that he knows what he's talking about when he knows what he's saying, how to say it. So for him to be suddenly naive in this one incident where he gets the heat turned up on him I find that to be ludicrous. You look at the way it was taken too, like not like it was some shot that's manufactured. It's like he's just taken it quickly and then caught her off guard and gone, and then posted it to Twitter. Like you don't do that unless you have some sort of agenda. And it's easy to turn around and say, "Oh, I was trying to do this message. I was trying to say this afterwards." But in the moment, he knew what he was doing. And if it was in the moment, why would he upload it to Twitter afterwards with the Lush and Cardiff written there? It's just it's not something that
and it's
someone
pretty damn
like
convenient
Sargon.
as well that Sargon, like Kristi was saying, he engages in fat shaming all the time. Like I've seen him do this sort of shit on Twitter all the time. So it's pretty convenient that this is kind of along those lines. But oh no, that's not what I was doing. I was making a protest against this store who's making this political statement about feminism. He said in his apology that what would it be like if they were wearing a T-shirt that said like fascist or communist, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? Yeah, feminism, fascism, they're all the fucking same, right? Just
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
And like even if it was a shop store shirt, like you took a picture of her off guard, like scurried away, and then thought, "Oh, I'll put this on Twitter for my significantly scaled audience."
And if that was actually his intention, I mean, you've got 140 characters, mate. You've got 140 characters to write out your protest. You could have expanded on your idea, but no, you had to be really ambiguous about it. Like
Again,
you say, I mean, yeah.
Sorry, just this goes back to how Carl seems to think people can read his mind. He'll put out a tweet, and then when someone takes a different interpretation, he acts as if you were supposed to know exactly what was in his head, what his intentions were, and to always assume, that if he did something, it was because he didn't realize what was going to happen. And this is a pattern I've experienced before. So I've had firsthand knowledge of this way of that he's a bad writer. This is what it comes down to. He doesn't actually communicate his thoughts clearly when he writes, and this leaves him open for misinterpretation. That is his fault. And then when he is misinterpreted, he blames the audience who are reading his unclear words rather than his lack of clarity. So that was my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I just think the whole it seems he's got 500,000 subscribers, and is he really that unable to see what happens when, because he said in this video, and I did want to say that I actually thought in general the apology that he made was quite nice, and it he seemed sincere in his apology, the things he said, and to the woman in question, and he did make it pretty clear in that video, because he said, oh, maybe I don't say it enough, but don't go to people's things and say mean stuff unless you're going to say something nice. Don't go and find people and tweet at them or whatever. So he did say that, and no, he doesn't make that intention clear enough. He definitely doesn't. But I appreciate the fact that he said that in this video. So that's cool, and that's kind of a step, a good step. But the thing is, you can't just say it once and then be done with it. You've kind of got to take that that sentiment to heart. That's got to be part of your thing, because if you just say it once, then it's just going to get ignored. But if you make that part of your thing, that you actually care about that sentiment, that you don't want people to be going and dogpiling people, or abusing people, or finding people in real life, blah, 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 blah. If you make it clear that is a thing that you truly believe, then that's going to make a difference, I think, because I feel like a lot of people just follow these people to so that they can then go and do that. It seems that's a thing that happens, and to be blind to that, I can't see how you could be, if
Yeah.
He did qualify that statement by saying if the person's not a public figure.
Oh yeah,
So,
he did.
Just to,
That's true.
Just the fact the tweet was so singular as well and simplistic, with the main focus being on the image, sort of implies what the intention was. And certainly, even if it wasn't the intention, if that's the main focus of your tweet, then what do you think the more volatile members of your audience are going to do? You got to have some awareness.
Yeah.
Am I back now?
Yeah, you are. I thought we
Okay,
offended
cool.
you somehow.
Well, your mere existence offends me, Michael. But
luckily,
no,
we live
nothing
so far away
particular.
from each other. We're literally opposite on the poles. So. Oh, he's gone again, I think. So Kev's having some technical difficulties, but that's okay because we didn't want to hear what he has to say anyway.
yeah. We just brought him on
Hello?
for eye candy.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah,
That beard. That beard.
You need to fucking up your standards. That's all.
Mate, your beard is lacking behind. Did you see Roosh V's latest video? He's got a beard that's better than yours, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, oh god, yeah, absolutely. That's like a fucking one of those beards of bees that you see on people. Fucking glorious.
So Kevin should talk before he
Anyway,
drops out again.
Yeah, just
anyway, yes, I was just going to say about the Sargon thing. It's the slipperiness and the obvious bullshit that comes along with it, which makes his claim of it might, I didn't realize that it was my fans were going to do this thing, total bullshit. Because on my video I did about this yesterday, Jeff Holiday, an erstwhile fucking fellow arsehole with Sargon, asked for context about the quote, and I said, well, there's no context to give. It's literally just the store and then in the town it was in. And so there's no context to give there. Yeah, in Sargon's quote unquote apology video, he then goes on to say about, I tweeted this out with it's a picture of this store attendant and blah blah blah. And you think, well, yeah, but you didn't put that in the tweet. You can't add context after the fact and then claim that that's what it was about, because you didn't make that. Not only did you not make it clear, you didn't write it at all. There was no other extra information. There was no context to this. It was literally just, oh, this person in this, works at this store in this place. It's so obviously a doxing, and he may not have necessarily intended people to go after the person, but after the store or whatever. But either way, you essentially caused a sexist dogpile against yet another woman.
Can I also build on that, Kevin? Because if you watch the video, he actually starts off by saying that he had heard that, this person she was wearing the t-shirt because it was store policy, but he didn't know. But by the end of it, he'd convinced himself that was the case. And, if it was going to say feminist, why shouldn't it say Marxist or communist? So, you can actually watch him develop an alternative fact and then argue against it in like just over a Sargon, really.
Yeah, exactly. It took him a Sargon to pull a Trump.
What do you think about? So he deleted the tweet, and from what I understand, at the behest of Shoe on Head, who managed to convince him to get rid of it. Now, when I heard this, everyone's like, "Oh, he's deleted the tweet now. He's obviously remorseful or whatever." But from what I understand, and from what it seems to me, he deleted the tweet not after being told how awful it was, the things that he did, because myself, Kevin, Tim, whole bunch of people, I made a video, people tweeted at him how awful this was, what a piece of shit. Nothing changed. But as soon as Shoe on Head tells him about it and tells him that the police are getting involved, then he deletes the tweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I've warned him in the past. I warned him over the "I wouldn't even rape you" thing, which he sent to a member of parliament. That's brilliant work.
Nice one, mate.
Yeah, because members of parliament don't have any power to do anything, do they? That's no one ever
so
listens.
she can. That's
Yeah, exactly. And if you make sort of veiled threats of violence against them, the police will definitely not get involved. Obviously, yeah. I've warned him in the past. Eventually, he's going to overstep the mark, and the police are going to have to get involved. And once you start making real life bullshit out of this, out of a totally innocent person, it's not even like with Jess Phillips. At least there was a political disagreement between them. You can at least understand why there was a confrontation at all. This is just a perfectly innocent bystander, just at work, just a person at work, and she's getting dogpiled left, right, and centre because of this. Look, if we're generous, we'll say clueless, and if we're more honest, we'll say vindictive. Shitlord.
Either way, the absence of like morality and basic like thought to your actions is rather telling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially with the poor response and the immediate offence of Sargon, who's clearly in the wrong, to the point where he's made an apology video that's being trotted out too. Like, there's no rationality in that.
Yeah, I was just going to say. Also, in the apology video where you apologise for doxing someone, you probably ought not call that video the very thing that was the dox in the first place.
What did he call it?
Literally, the title of his video is repeating the dox from the initial doxing.
Are you kidding? Oh my god, it is too. What a fucking idiot.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just and he showed the tweet too with the same information.
True. Oh my god. I mean, he's covered up her face.
Yeah, but he blanked out her face.
Not the point.
Yeah, but exactly. But you didn't blank out the docs. Fucking hell. Like, it's still, and there's an archive that if some nutter, some fucking Elliot Roger Mark II wants to fucking get hold of her face, it's out there.
Yeah.
It's out there. Once it's on the internet, it's archived somewhere. I can get hold of it with a pretty simple Google search. Yeah. So fucking Nutty McShooty Stabby man will definitely find it.
Yeah. The people that Sargon knows in his audience too, because he's actually had to say, or he's tried to dispel them from his audience. So it's not like he's unoblivious.
Well, that's right. He knows that he's got white nationalists in his audience and crazy fucking, those sorts of people in his audience because he tries to get rid of them.
Yeah, and it only takes one. This is the thing. They'll say, "Oh, well, you can't say 200,000 people or whatever, 500,000 or whatever subscribers are all maniacs." No, but you only need one.
Yeah,
you literally only need one.
Yeah. Well, go for Kristi.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that when I heard an apology issued by a member of the House of Commons, it was a straight up apology. It was like in A Fish Called Wanda, when Otto is dangling John Cleese's character upside down out of the window, and he apologizes unreservedly for any distress that I may have caused you or your family. There was no
documentary
qualifications.
of Wonder.
Yes. There were no qualifications, there were no excuses, there were no sidebars, there were no rants about the system. It was a straight up apology. And so on the positive side, he actually did say words that were direct apologies. I'll give him, I honestly give him credit for not saying, "I'm sorry if you were offended that I said that." That's the worst sort of non-apology apology there is. He actually did say a few words that were sincere apologies, but that was maybe 30 seconds to 45 seconds of the video. And the rest of it was just him, speculating.
And he spent part of the video, a fair chunk of the end of the video, ranting about how stores shouldn't be making their employees wear feminist on the t-shirt, because he covers all the big stories.
Right. And if he wanted to do a sincere apology, he should have just done the apology and the retraction and address the issue of what his fans had done and her being harassed in real life.
Yeah. And like I say, don't title the video and mention in the video the very thing that was the problem in the first place.
Yeah.
Personally, I reckon the structure of that video was done in a way to partly play to his audience, or to sort of tone down the apology in a way. Like, I reckon he was sincere in the parts where he was genuinely apologizing, but he sort of wanted to counteract that with other parts, which...
Yeah, it also came after the fact that he was notified that the police might have been alerted, and I think he was looking to cover his ass, because as Kevin points out, there was a pretty big lag between people criticizing him for doing it and him actually regret doing it.
Yeah. Speaking of apologizing, just a little segue from that. I was talking to someone yesterday on the Twitter about harassment in this kind of sense, about big YouTubers, and when I say big, I mean even a couple of thousand people, followers, kind of thing. It doesn't even, you could have an audience of maybe 10,000, 20,000 or something like that, and it can still have an effect of making videos about people. And I mean, we've talked about this a lot, but making videos about people, and then the result of that being those people getting dogpiled. And I still hear the same tired excuses trotted out about it. They don't have any control, and you can't blame them for the actions of their audience, and what do you expect them to do? And the new one that I heard yesterday was that it's the sentiment of wanting people to be more responsible with what they do when they have a large audience is restricting, I don't want to say free speech, what's the word? Irrational discourse. It's against reasonable discourse if you try to tell people to be more responsible with their audiences. And I'm just like, what? So, and the reason this came up is because I saw just a couple of days ago, this girl who's got like 300 subscribers, and there's one particular video which has got like 40,000 views or something, and 8,000 dislikes, and a whole bunch of dickheads in her comments. The normal thing. And it's because someone with about 40,000 subs made a video about her. What do you guys think?
If I could jump in, I have a really short response, which is kind of a detour, but one of the problems I had with Onision's channel for the last several months is that he used, and I only got to know, I only found his channel like in the last 6 months, but he used his platform to talk about his personal life. And he had disproportionate amounts of power to the people he was talking about. And he didn't respect that. He didn't understand the strength, what having his platform, how it could be used against other people, because it wasn't being used against him. And as you grow, when you're 2,000 subscribers as a channel, you can shitpost and it's not really going to cause any waves. But when you start to get up into 10,000, 100,000, 500,000, you have to actually, with great audience comes great responsibility. And the idea that these YouTubers, I said this was short and I wrap it up shortly, the idea that these YouTubers can't influence their audience. Just look what happens when Bearing shouts out a channel, how its subs just jump overnight. Or Bearing made a comment about starting a petition against me, and his fans started a petition against me. The idea that these people don't have a great amount of influence to get people to act based on the emotions they've charged up is just defying observation, in my opinion. And that's the end of my comment.
Yeah. And not just that, I think that's absolutely true. But what kind of rational discourse is the name of the store and the town? Kind of rational discourse, exactly.
I think he was hinting at the whole Milo thing. That's what I think he was hinting at. But by that point, I was just like, no, I'm out. I don't want to be fucking discussing harassment apologetics again. But I think that, you know, the extension of the thing would have been, you know, well, fucking leftists are shutting down Milo Yiannopoulos having talks or whatever.
Okay,
That's
well,
what
how is doxing a trans person or threatening to dox a family member of illegal immigrants? How is that part of rational discourse?
Mm-hmm.
I actually think it's interesting because, you know, Michael, your take was not my take at all. And maybe we should go around and all of us say what we think Sargon meant by his tweet. Because for me, it was the way that he uses people's images in his thumbnails, that he uses them as objects of derision and to deny them their humanity by laughing at them and making them a caricature. And to me, what he was basically doing was trying to do that. And for some reason, he also put in, you know, the other information that allowed people to would allow someone to triangulate it. And so that was my take on it, that it was a mocking tweet, not a comment on Milo.
Well,
Completely agree.
Oh no, sorry. The comment. Sorry, the comment on Milo. That was not to do with Sargon's thing. That was where this discussion with this harassment apologist was going. But that's what I thought what he was hinting at was, you know, he was saying
on the topic, and I know some people aren't happy with body shaming or whatever, and I think that's fine for if it's an innocent target. But Sargon is not an innocent target, so I think this is perfectly justified to say, how can he ever go at anyone for the way they look? He looks like me, but worse. He looks like the bloated corpse of me. It's ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? Like if you dragged me out of a fucking canal after 3 weeks, that's what Sargon looks like, and yet he has the temerity to ever go at someone else for the way they look.
So Kevin, can you see my screen? You just get you some sunglasses, and then you can have that smooth, not enough O's and smooth look.
Exactly. I mean, he's
his avatar on Twitter at the moment.
Oh, okay. I'm screen sharing a Valentine's Day card. That's all.
Made by the glorious Go Fem Yourself. Go and follow her on the.
Yeah, everyone should go and follow Go Fem Yourself. And in fact, I wanted to bring up Go Fem Yourself's latest video as well, because I think, again, that kind of feeds into this discussion. She, if you haven't seen it, let me summarize it real quick. It's basically, she made a video about white nationalist apologetics, and I think in specifically Jeff Holiday, one of my favorite people ever. And so she made this video, and then what happened is Jeff either did a live stream or made a video about her, and that that led to her receiving a lot of harassment, death threats, rape threats, and even people sending like porn at her, and child porn, as far as I'm aware, as well, which is like, come on, man. Which is particularly galling because he made this big fucking cry fest about how much child porn there is on Twitter.
And also very illegal.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, so she's been receiving all this because she called out some people for, you know, for apologizing for white nationalists. Because, you know, there's this whole thing of should we or shouldn't we punch a Nazi kind of thing. And so she was talking about that. And these people are like vehemently against punching a Nazi, but they're totally okay with swarms of assholes saying people should kill themselves and sending rape threats and death threats and porn and all this sort of shit at people. And so that was the kind of the hypocrisy she was talking about in this video, and I thought it was quite good.
And they also seem quite okay with the idea of running down protesters with cars. Because apparently violence is okay if it's you don't like.
That's not about free speech, Kevin.
Well, that's about motorists' right.
Yeah.
Definitely. I get the impression there's a suspension of what people are saying when it happens to someone who they agree with. Like, I think that the lack of critical understanding on a lot of the anti-feminist and anti-SJW in quotation marks on their like comments and stuff and on their general discussion transfers over to just disagreeing with people who are ideologically opposed to you for the sake of it, and that leads to like clear hypocrisies between what they're saying and what they're doing and what they're arguing for, like with the abuse and harassment they're sending, but then being defensive of Nazi punching, and you end up with like I said, like clear hypocrisies. And if they thought about it critically, then I think they would be able to see it. But the sort of suspension of critical analysis when you have to agree blindly with your with one of the anti-feminists, to the point where if you even suggest that they might be wrong, you get like attacked yourself within their sort of circles, leads to what happened to many feminists, where they get sent awful stuff.
I think also the it doesn't appear to happen to anyone on that side. I think it does. I've been talking with a friend kind of recently, who is, I suppose, quote unquote, from that side, and this person was telling me about how this sort of awful stuff that they receive, and it's obviously not because they're a feminist, but it seems to me that it happens far more often to people on this side, you know. And so that lack of, like, I suppose it's hard to empathize with something you have no experience with.
Well, it can seem like when you hear people talking about harassment and stuff, when you have such a like big audience, like on channels like Bearing or Sargon or whoever, like it can seem to someone like ludicrous to say, oh, there's 300,000 people sending one person hate every time they make a video. Like, but when you have such a large audience, and especially an audience of people who range from moderately like against feminism to vehemently anti-woman, like there's going to be a broad group of people on the like far end who will happily send harassment and abuse to people and don't really care whether it's like hypocritical of the things they've said in the past. Like, and the refusal and often ignorance of some creators of content to address that, or to put up a like 2-second image of like, oh, I don't really want you to harass people, but here's a little language which suggests that I'm not really that fussed about it, like shows that they're being enabled by the people they're following in many ways.
Yeah, totally. What do you think, Kristi?
Sorry, I had my mic on mute. I think it's a feedback loop. You know, the people who create the content and basically point out targets and go on Twitter and shit post and try to tag people into stuff get a thrill from the reaction they get from their fans, and their fans are looking for stimuli. So they go to their source and they find out who to target, and then they go and they rage, and then they feel good about themselves. And that's the pernicious cycle that I think this kind of behavior, if the creator doesn't take responsibility for their actions and rein their own audience in, realizing this feedback loop, then that's ultimately on them, I think.
Yeah, well, I will give Sargon one bit of credit. At least he has, in that apology, not apology video, did come out and say, look, just don't interact with the people I make videos about. Now, whether any of them will listen, I don't know, but at least he's actually said it.
Like, you wouldn't see that on a few other channels, to say the least.
But he sort of needs to say that in every single video. You can't just say it once 3 years ago and think that it's a closed case, because you're always getting new viewers, and your audience can sometimes wander or forget. So it's not enough to just, you know, say it once or put it in the disclaimer at the bottom of the description box. It actually has to be an active campaign. And I think that's something that the one janitor brought up. If it's a value for you, then you have to express it.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of other things that you can do to stop as well. I mean, Ranting Feminist made a video about you know, things that you could do to you know, stop, or, you know, at least mitigate some of the damage that comes from making a video about someone. And one of the things she did was like blank out the person's face, and also use some voice manipulation, and then just don't, because it should be, because we're talking about a rational discussion here, it should be about the arguments, not the person.
Exactly.
But then there was a response to that, and the person was like, "No, we're responding to a person," and I'm like, doesn't that tell you all you need to know? It's not about the discussion; it's about the person.
Like it comes back to the absence of critical thinking from a lot of these discussions. Like an argument itself is dissected in and within the words that are being expressed. You don't need an argument doesn't rely on what a person looks like or their gender or whatever, and consequently, the fact that so many anti-feminist arguments and arguments against a person have to incorporate or even just wholly include the attack on a physical appearance suggests there's a sort of like weakness in the argument itself, and that so many buy into this ideology of just attacking appearance and then skulking away through harassment or through abusive comments shows there's a problem within like their argument which needs to be addressed. And you would hope that if the rationals or so-called rationals had like any rationality to them, they would do more to address this, as Kristi said. Like the absence of that shows an inherent problem.
Yeah, I would also add that the shirt didn't say intersectional feminist. And many of the people who criticize third wave feminism claim to adhere to the values of, say, second wave feminism. The shirt just said feminist. The person, it could represent first wave feminism or equity feminism or Marxism feminism or, second wave feminism. There are all kinds of feminist theories and branches and waves. So the shirt in and of itself wasn't enough to make assumptions that were being made about her that were then, leading to her being, harassed online and whatnot. So.
Don't say it could have been Marxist feminism, because Carl's head might actually explode.
Big fucking boom.
That's a separate kind. You
No,
could be
the cultural Marxist feminazi.
Yeah.
I think Marx is probably second to feminist in terms of words they don't understand very often, or people, I guess, in Marx's case. But...
Well, this is, they just treat feminism as this big homogenous thing. When if you actually read into feminist theory and its development, there are, were branches of it, and there are, developments in the theory and expansion of the theory. So again, it's just, it's a word, not the actual thing itself that they're reacting to, and their impression of it, their social construction of what feminism is. There's another triggering word.
There was another trigger.
Yeah, let's say some more words that'll Carl will. Let's see if we can get Carl to melt what the fuck.
Problematic as well. There you go. Privilege.
Yeah.
I'm up. You guys aren't playing.
Exactly.
Sorry.
White male.
Patriarchy. Patriarchy.
Cis patriarchy.
Oh, good one.
Whoa, patriarchy.
Progress, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Hillary
Clinton. Oh God! I just saw TJ. Fucking TJ. He just tweeted. This is what he said. I heard that Hillary Clinton's running again in 2020. In that case, Trump for president 2020. And I'm like, fuck. What is wrong with you?
Oh, TJ still Scott. Okay.
What's that?
Well, it's always good. I mean, I presume every day I wake up, I presume that TJ's still an utter turd of a human being. It's nice to have that confirmed.
I honestly watch far less Amazing Atheist than I'm sure you guys have seen. But he's like, I just find the incredible suspension of logic in backing a party that is quite clearly anti-science when you're so proudly an atheist. Like,
yeah, I mean, they've literally just ensconced a fucking fundy nut job as the head of education. And yeah, he's still back. He's backing Trump. Not just that, he's backing Trump, even though there's no possible way we could know that Hillary's running in 2020. She's old enough that she could be dead by then. Like, that's a legitimate possibility.
Speaking of backing... Oh, sorry, Kristi.
Yeah, just outrage culture. There's the thing about the security leaks. There's the protesters thing. There's the global gag rule. There's the removal of data of animal welfare from the ag site. There were the attempts to suppress free speech at the EPA with climate data. And what does TJ focus on? Hillary Clinton might run in 2020. Come on.
Because she made but
it's okay to be a treasonous scumbag trying to collude with foreign hostile powers because emails.
Right.
What about her emails?
which Trump himself is now doing
What
the
about
same thing.
What about Donald Trump holding a national security fucking meeting in the middle of the dining hall at a fucking golf club? Security issues there. Thank fuck.
Speaking of
yeah, we shouldn't. Let's not
of-
go down the Trump sideway, otherwise I'll just start ranting.
speaking about just kind of blindly following people who happen to be religious. Did you guys read the Martin Hughes article about Milo Yiannopoulos being a Catholic apologist?
I
am
it,
aware of
No.
it, but I haven't read that yet.
It's
You need to send
fantastic.
us the reading and watch list, like, a day before the hangout here.
I'm just rolling with it, man. I'm just saying the things that come into the top of my head, just freestyling.
So can you summarize it? Can you summarize it for us?
Well, basically, it's saying, giving a bunch of reasons why Milo is a Catholic apologist, because of his views and the things that he says. But being against homosexual marriage and all that sort of thing. But like some of the stuff that he says, like what did he say? Talking about how Catholics, because he's a Catholic and he professes to be a Catholic. People ask him, "Hey, so do you believe?" And he says, "Yes, I am a Catholic and I believe in that stuff." And he says that as a Catholic, we understand the idea of original sin, and that we profess to be bad people, and we want to try and change that, but that's not how everyone else kind of thinks about the world, and so we are kind of morally superior in that sense. And then everything kind of trickles down from there about him just basically being a Catholic apologist, professing, Catholic ideals, but just dressed up in a kind of edgy, new age kind of provocateur, wolf dress, sheep
Secular.
Yeah.
Least
These
troll,
people who are,
Spies.
supporting him basically. So all these people are supporting Milo, who claim to be rational and logical and all that sort of stuff, but they're just supporting a Catholic apologist.
Yeah, and
They're
next
very
up,
good articles. You should read them.
a man that said that atheists are all stupid.
A man who wrote for Breitbart. That should be enough to tell you there's something a bit questionable, to be honest. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's just, Milo is interested in maintaining the status quo of a sort of patriarchy and class. And instead of using the pulpit to scare people with the threat of hell, he basically tries to legitimize his discourse, which is just an intellectualization of making fun of people and trying to shut people down and shut people up. But his whole shtick is that he's offended that people have opinions that he disagrees with. He doesn't actually have any really intellectual critique. He's not advancing. He's a theory. He's not John Rawls here. He goes to campuses, and he says really provocative things, but he doesn't actually have a lot of substance to what he's saying.
It's basically gotchas. I feel like the things that he says are just gotchas at people. I've seen him have discussions with people on panels or whatever, and all he says is things that are just kind of, when people like retort with something that would take pages and pages and pages to respond to, and then he just sits there and goes, "Well, haha, I win."
Did you guys see? Yeah, there's a video. Sorry. There was a video put out, and it was either by, sorry, I can't remember. I think it was Go Fem Yourself, but it might have been Ranting Feminist, about how Milo shuts down debates. I'm sorry to the true author, but both your channels are getting lots of love tonight, so everybody go check their channel out. Yeah, and the whole video was basically showing how he interrupts people and talks over them so that they can't make their points, and then misrepresents what they say and argues a straw man. So that's how he wins, by shutting down debate, not letting it happen.
One of my responses to people saying, wanting, free speech and all that sort of shit, and allowing, the best disinfectant for bad ideas is sunlight and all this sort of shit. You need to allow these ideas to be out there so that people can, assess them, and they, bad ideas will fall by the wayside and the good ones will get through. That's not what's happening. Milo's getting a platform and he's propagandizing basically. What needs to happen is he needs to be put down in a formal debate where he can't just talk over people, and that will allow his stupid ideas to be shut down. But that's not what's happening, and that's not what he does. You know, he wouldn't thrive in that situation at all.
Comes
No.
back to the lack of critical thinking in like media discourse around politics. I feel like if you look at the debate, as you said, like it's just gotchas and him throwing some irrelevant like comeback at the person he's debating, and there's no addressing of the argument itself. And if people were more aware and less in tune to be just like look out for buzzwords and feminist propaganda lies, then they would see that what Milo is saying is nothing more than petty insults and essentially admitting that he's got no counters to those he's debating. It's telling, like he himself he's a troll who realized that he has an audience untapped in America of like neoconservatism and anti-feminism and stuff. So he's legitimized it by saying, "Oh well, I'm gay and I sleep with black men, therefore it's okay for me to say these obviously outrageous things because I agree with it."
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me how people can't see how like critically stunted that opinion is and his opinions are.
Dead air.
What
Dead
do you
air.
think? What do you think, Kevin?
I think Milo is just a classic example of someone who needs to fuck off. I could have come up with something much better than that, but I just think I can't be bothered with him anymore. He's just a really tiresome troll.
Yeah, someone
I
said
don't
in the
care
comments.
what idea.
Someone just said in the chat, you know, Milo's just an idiot. No one takes him seriously, but people do take him seriously. That's the problem.
Well, that's not true. His fucking former boss is now essentially the most powerful person in the world. Don't pretend it's the orange guy. It's Bannon that's the fucking pulling the strings there. And I presume Milo probably still has his phone number and can ring him, and that's terrifying.
Personally, I would like to see students stop protesting Milo and start trolling him. For instance, they could have a Milo impersonation counter protest, and they could have people dress up like Milo and give really progressive speeches and film themselves doing that. You know, I think that there are ways to deal with him that don't deal with, basically, to be honest, tactics that are still embedded in the 20th century. Doing a student protest is 20th century, and Milo lives and occupies the 21st century. So you have to compete with him in a social media format, and you can't. And if you don't present the media with something to take pictures of, they'll take pictures of the worst incidents and that will take place all day, and that will be the image of your efforts. So I think we have to get a little smarter about the way we present our messages, because I think the Women's March, one of the best things about it was the fact that there were no arrests. Again, I haven't heard any reports of arrests that took place, and there were hundreds of thousands of people. And
but
so
it was a super violent riot.
Right.
Kristi.
Yes.
It was.
Right. Day before was.
Also, I don't. Also, Milo, one of Milo's fans shot a dude. So, I mean, I'm really not sure they're in a position to talk about fucking violence.
But
and of course, I'm bright.
But someone punched a Nazi, so that's the worst thing, you know.
Yeah, and not just that, but obviously Milo, being such a great journalist before any of the facts were known, went on and said that categorically it was one of the anti-Milo protesters that had shot the gun. Cool.
Anyway, sorry, Kristi, we interrupted.
Yeah, so the a lot of the images were of the pink hats or the signs, and that's what captured, I think, the energy of the movement and was conveyed through the media. And if you can do that, if you can turn, you know, if you say love trumps hate, then like with gay pride parades, you actually have to do the love bit. You know, you have to be happy and joyous. And I think that, you know, mockery and satire is always the best way to deal with authoritarian types and people who want to shut down other people's speech. So yeah, I think our counter protests need to be a bit more 21st century friendly.
I think healthy.
But the problem with that, we haven't all got. So go
on. Well, I was only going to say, like, sort of what you're saying there, or what you're about to say. I think, like, it's important to remember that the best, like, if you have physical presence of opposition, then you intimidate and like threaten the most like ardent of Milo's presence. Like, you see the narrative of the left are a bunch of babies change from the left are dangerous and scary as soon as there's a sort of mass movement of people. And whilst I think you're right in saying satire and parody is really important, because I think you have to sort of compete with Milo on social media, because he is a virus-like presence on there, and it's important to fight him there. But protest is really effective too, and you don't want to lose a sort of student grounds of like protest, like at universities, by just moving yourself to the internet to protest.
Well, it was more about the
Yeah.
tactics being used. I don't know that sit-ins are really, that kind of thing. Obviously people congregate and get together, but the kind of tone of it, I think needs to be one that is focusing on the message and less anger at the person that you're protesting. Ideally, again, with Milo, I think, for instance, calling him out on his doxing of a student on campus, which should disqualify him from ever speaking on a campus forever, in my opinion, not because of what he has to say, but what he does with what he has to say. Yeah, I don't want to say completely throw away the 60s, but if our first instinct is to do things that have, we've always done in the 20th century without reflecting on how that's going to be perceived or how we can help our message with the 21st century, because back then they had to rely on their formal media, but now we have social media and we can shape the messages to match what we want them to be.
True. I agree with Kristi. I think there's a point to that, but where I would possibly slightly disagree in terms of tone would be the characteristics of humanity haven't changed enormously in the last in the last few hundred years, basically. On occasion, you need to have physical resistance, and I don't even mean necessarily getting violent. I mean physically stopping things in the same way that we obviously had the Great Battle of Cable Street here in Britain, where people stood in the way and physically stopped Nazis marching into. No, you could say that's a restriction of their freedom of expression or freedom of speech or whatever, but sometimes you need to have that physical.
I just think it's like absolute, like ridiculously outrageous, the selective outrage from people complaining about free speech being infringed in the Milo sense, or complaining about a Nazi being punched, but then completely ignoring, like we said, the shooting of someone at a Milo protest, and also completely ignoring or being okay with what I think is an infringement on people's right to free speech, which is the online harassing and dogpiling that does silence people. Oh, but those people choose to take down their videos. Oh, they choose to get rid of their YouTube channel and stuff. Yeah, but you've got like a small channel which is trying to have a voice, which is new to the whole thing. I mean, when I first came onto YouTube, I had no idea of this culture of dogpiling and all that sort of shit. I thought, all sunshine and roses and all that sort of shit. But it can be a bit of a shock when suddenly you get, piled with all these assholes telling you that you're a stupid cunt and that you should go kill yourself. And using that as a weapon, which is basically what it is, to silence people. I think that's a huge infringement of people's right to free speech. But no, it's okay. That's fine, because it's someone else's free speech that is being used or something. I don't know.
Well, no, what they're saying is, sorry, if I could just follow up on that really quick. Yeah. What they're saying is it's not okay for people to go in person and protest someone's speech to the point where that person doesn't give their speech. But it's okay digitally for people to go and shout down people on YouTube until they don't speak. That's somehow different in their minds when really it's the exact same thing.
It's exactly the same thing. It's protesting, isn't it? I mean, I suppose it doesn't matter if we're not talking about what the content of being said is, but you're still using a force of voices to shut down another voice, right?
Like in the modern age, the internet is a very important platform, so absolutely it's still protest and dissent. But when you see the sort of nature of the comments get left on some of these smaller channels, it's not like just because it's easy to say, oh, it's YouTube and there's always going to be like idiots going around. But you see a comment like, you're an ugly bitch, I'll rape you or something, with like 300 likes. Like, there are enough people pushing this up to the top, so that the first thing these people will see is like the worst of the abuse. Like, if it was just like fringe,
and it's such that it's rational. They just want to have a rational debate with the silly bitch they want to rape.
Well,
Yeah,
can I just point
obviously.
out that I made a comment that Bering doesn't, in comments he's talking to Tim and I think with Moriarty, he said that when it comes to what happens to people, he doesn't really care. He doesn't really care about it. He cares about his friends and he cares about his family. And if other people get hassled, that doesn't really impact him. So he doesn't really care. And I made a comment on Twitter, I think it was, about him not caring about the kind of rape threats and other harassment that his fans give as when he targets people. And he made a video complaining about me pointing this out. And then if you go into the comments section of the video, there are a whole bunch of comments where people are talking about raping me. In his comment section where he's complaining that I say that he tolerates people writing about, rape to me and to other people on YouTube as a consequence of his videos and other violent, written threats. So, the disconnect there too between your actions, what you're complaining about, and then what you see right in front of you. I don't know how they can't see it except for cognitive dissonance.
Like the amount of bile that gets thrown towards people, and the fact that whole like subset of fans can create like mocked up art of you and stuff, and really like despicable things, and then somehow claim that, oh well, it's a breach of our free speech to impede us and stop us from commenting and stuff. Like, you dug your own grave. And if your arguments are so heavily reliant on such like awful stuff, then what does that say about you? And of course they can see it, because there's no way you're not like, it's not like it's just another YouTube buzzword like stock insult. Like, you have to actually think about what you're saying to write such like often graphic, like disgusting stuff. Like, there's a clear absence of conscious, and the fact that Bering can say like, oh well, if he said like, I don't care apart from my friends and family, like, it's a very like literal sense of it. It's like you're saying, oh well, literally I care about people I know in real life, but he's got an audience, so you would hope that he would like address those going to videos and leave them most ardent of like comments. Because if he was saying, oh well, it's just criticism, you have to learn to take it, then he would be looking at the ones that get like voted up loads, and have like the worst stuff in it, and saying, oh well, why is this like being included in criticism? Because if I am a rational person, I don't need to make awful comments in order to make a good criticism of someone else's point. But the fact that he doesn't, the fact that some of the stuff that's in the comments is echoed in his own stuff in his videos, suggests that like these people don't always have it in them to address the problems in their community, I guess.
Tim just brought up a good point in relation to that, which is also in relation to what Sargon did, is how would these people feel if the same thing that was happening to this random person that, on the internet, on the screen, some words and a picture on the screen, happened to one of their family members?
Did you say Tim said that?
No, I mean, I originally said that when Sargon did this this tweet thing. One of the things that I said in relation to that was, how would Sargon feel if someone took a picture of his wife and the place where she works and put that up on Twitter? And then Tim just said that in the comments, saying, "Oh, someone made a great point," and I was like, "That was me. I made that point. That was me."
Tim's in the live chat.
Tim's in the live chat. Yeah. Hi, Tim.
So
hey. Oh, Garrett's here too.
Why aren't you on the stream then? You fucking.
He said he was working. But to be fair, his working.
He's not working very hard, is he?
He just drives around in a car all day and then chats on his phone and shit. So that's probably what he's doing.
I think we need Sargon to go into his workplace, take a picture of him, and then tweet that out.
Yeah, I think we do. But yeah, point is
not working hard.
Point is, I don't know how you'd make people understand that, but I suppose that's a good start to empathizing with the people that you're targeting, is thinking, hold on, how would that make me feel if my wife or my child or my sister or my mother or something got targeted in the same way?
Yeah.
Oh my god, we're having to fucking explain to them, but the basics of ethical reciprocity. I'd literally do unto others as you would do unto yourself. It's ridiculous.
True story.
I find
explain to a 6-year-old.
Yeah, basically. I find that when with arguments, I try to obviously the point is still good, but I tried to avoid saying that. Oh, well, you wouldn't like it if it was your family member, because I feel as though like arguments shouldn't have to rely on like personal connections to it. But at the same time, it's kind of true. Like you wouldn't see the same reaction if it was someone important to you or someone like you knew being treated like a stock joke for another like famous anti-feminist, or like, and you
Well,
can
exactly.
guarantee
And
this was
clearly,
like
and they
this,
try and act
yeah,
as if they're not emotional creatures in any way. But clearly, if it happens to one of your family members, it's going to affect you more. Which is one of the many reasons they don't allow like the murder victim's family to be on the fucking jury in a court
yeah.
case, because they might be a little bit biased in the situation. It happens.
And you know what Michael was saying earlier about this excuse that, you know, they choose to take their videos down or they choose to take their channels down. These channels didn't choose to be targeted by Bearing or whomever else decides, Undoomed, you know, decides to go after a channel, and then suddenly they just get this wave of hate. You know, they didn't ask for that. They're reacting to being targeted.
No,
That's
Kristi,
not
no.
choosing to take down your content.
They put their stuff in a public place, and they deserve to be criticized. If they're gonna put their stuff in a public place, then they are allowing people to come and criticize them, even if it's 40,000 of them, and they're all saying, "Go kill yourself, you stupid cunt."
Yeah, again, but you can't protest against Milo being on campus because that's, you know.
Yeah. The the person that I was discussing this with, you know, because I said you know, I always say the word sent. I say a person may, you know, sent all their followers over, and that's kind of my shorthand for made a video about a person, which resulted in them their followers finding that channel and making you know, comments and dislikes and all that sort of stuff, because that happens. If you make videos and this sort of thing happens regularly, you can't be so stupid as to not realize that that is a consequence of you making a video about someone. So when I say sent, that is what I mean when I say that. And he's making all these disingenuous questions about, what do you mean he sent? When did he say go and do this? You know, where's your proof that?
And when Michael says that, he means the word sent, not sint.
Fuck
But
off.
it's just.
And that sometimes they'll go and comment in the comment sections. You know, Sargon will go to the comments, or Bearing will go to the comments, and then all their little fans will flock to that one comment and thumb it up and gush all over them.
And in fact, that's how we met Owen.
Yeah.
So there was someone asking who this Owen guy is. So Owen's a new friend of ours, because he was one of his videos was commented on by our good friend. I'm not going to talk about him because I'm over that cunt. So we gave Owen a bit of love.
I don't know.
What's that?
Who is the person? Because I don't know the story.
Oh, okay. It was the bear man. He boring.
The bear man. Who's that? I don't know who that is. Who is it?
Yeah, boring. The bear man. Boring the bear man. And Michael.
Is he a big hairy homosexual? Is that what you're calling him, a bear man? Is that what?
Big hairy homosexual? Yeah, probably. I imagine he engages in some sodomy occasionally.
That's all right. Well, there's nothing wrong with it.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm sure he really enjoys it.
Squirrel do it all the time. So.
Oh yeah, totally. You know, it's you know. So he commented on.
Have I derailed the story enough yet?
Yeah, you have.
I don't feel like I've been enough of a news today so far. So.
It's kind of hard because you kind of cut out a little bit, so I want to go along with it. But on the other hand, I'm like, what did he just say? I'm not sure. So sort out your.
Well, you're missing comedy gold.
I am, obviously. Rational discourse. So yeah, so welcome, Owen. Yeah, so Owen was targeted, and we don't know whether he was going to actually make a video about it or not, but by boring the bear man, and and so we became friends, and so Owen's a pretty cool guy, and so you should go and check out his channel. He makes videos about feminism, and other things on his channel. His channel's in the description, so you should go and check him out. Stay nice.
We've adopted him like a kind of stray kitten.
Yeah, he was crying. He was all alone and cold in the rain, And we went and we
scratching at the back door, which we'll let him in, but he's only staying for one night, and then he fell into our hearts. So,
Give him a dish of milk.
like a little hedgehog.
and now he sleeps on my fucking pillow. Jesus Christ.
Such a fucking bludger. Jeez. Pay the rent,
No.
damn it.
Like, Bearing did comment on one of my videos. I mean, to be fair, he did.
Who?
Like, he was at least like
Boring
engaging
demon.
in discourse. Like, he wasn't like just trolling. I think he did leave some points, but like it was telling to see a few of the comments underneath afterwards, like, "Oh, Bearing, make a response. Bearing, please make a video. I love you, Bearing." Like, quite literally, in fact.
Is that the guy? Is that the guy that shits in the woods?
That's the one.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
knows the Pope.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
like, if he
I
does
always
ever
feel
make
like-
a response,
I always feel like when he comments on a thing, I feel like this with a lot of guys. You know, when Sargon comments on a thing that he, you know, someone makes a video about him or whatever, and the first thing they say normally is like a kind of a nice thing. You know, like Sargon will say, "Hey, great response. Maybe we can have a hangout sometime and talk about it or whatever." And then as soon as you show that you're not actually interested in discussing with them, they automatically turn you know, abusive or whatever. And so Sargon will, you know. But I always feel like that first initial comment that you get is always pretty fucking disingenuous. So he probably says that to come across as, you know, like a reasonable guy who just wants a discussion. Yeah. My first comment from
It's
Bearing.
difficult with Bearing. It's difficult with Bearing to really understand what he's saying at first because he's often got a salmon in his mouth. But you know, that's
Yeah.
often the way it goes with those creatures.
And when it comes to fan behavior, I think it's, you know, people sometimes will ask me why I don't have the ratings on the videos. And it's like, well, I can still see them, but what I'm not doing is letting, you know, Bearing's fans or Sargon's fans or whomever else has made a video come over and, you know, get the thrill of downvoting me and engaging in group behavior of like, oh yeah, let's all get together and downvote this, and this will show how right we are because there's so many of us. And you take that away from people and they start to go, why can't I have my little rage fest? And you're like, oh, I just, you know, irritated you. Good. That's exactly the reason I turned
It's
it
one
off.
of my favorite things to do. Yeah, is turn off comments. And then because I
See,
moderate the comments as well, so I can see them first. They come up and they're all like, "Oh man, you stupid aggressive, turning off your dislikes that you don't want the criticism. What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, well, I still receive the criticism. I still see it. You just don't see it." And then I delete the comment, and it's hilarious. It's just like,
because
oh,
there's
it
no
numbs my
criticism in
soul.
there. That's just
See,
complaining
Yeah.
and whining and insulting people is not criticism. And this is the other thing. People will say, oh, you're blocking people or you're moderating comments because you don't want to hear valid criticism. If you saw what I was moderating, there's no valid criticism in there. Or if there is valid criticism, it's mixed up with sexual slurs and insults to the point where I couldn't respond to that person because they obviously have no respect for me. So why would I show them the respect of answering their questions and pretending like they didn't just do that to me? So, you know, when the likes and dislikes get turned off, when comments get turned off, we can't have nice things because of the worst of Bearing's fans and Sargon's fans. That's why we can't have nice things.
yeah,
When your you know, rational discourses, you know, I really think that this idea of patriarchy that you're putting forward, it needs a bit of work, and maybe we could have a talk about that. You stupid fucking whore. When that's your comment,
Yeah.
I think you need to have a little bit of a think about what you said just then, because
That's not a valid criticism.
no.
but it comes back to what you're saying, Kristi, about the gratification of seeing a like-dislike bar completely grey or like mostly grey. Like the fact that you'd base the value of a video on that for the start is a bit questionable. But just the idea of like going over to a video, leaving your like crappy little comment, watching the likes get shrunk down, and then going, and like somehow that counts as our feminism has been beaten. Like the lack of logic in that. From people who would call themselves rational and supposedly like the sane ones compared to the crazy feminists with their insane views. Like you said, you need to have a look at yourself if that's the level of your criticism.
Well, they don't even watch the videos. You know, anybody here who can testify that if you are targeted by one of the big anti-fems, one of the telltale signs is that the minutes watched just drops. And it can get to, you know, under a minute on all of your average views because you're getting flooded with people who come in only to write a comment. They're not there to watch the video. You know, they don't watch the video and then engage with, oh, at this particular timestamp you use this definition, or at this particular timestamp you said this, but later at this timestamp you said that. Which did you mean? No. Those are not the kinds of comments that I get. You know, so that's the other problem. It's brigading or, you know, dogpiling. It's not about engaging with the content or leaving a valid criticism. They claim they are.
When you've got a 12-minute long video and then the average view time is like 30 seconds.
Or you got 6 downvotes 2 minutes after you put it up.
Yeah.
Then I can't take the ups and downs seriously. You know, I can't. Those are meaningless to me. Once I see that, the likes dislikes ratio is just meaningless.
The arguments were made in the video before, is what they'll say. So supposedly that justifies going over, leaving a crap comment, and disliking it, going again.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's pretty fucking stupid. Yeah, so that's how we met Owen. What else is there to talk about? I think we've kind of gone through the list of things that I wanted to
Did
discuss.
everybody here have a chance to watch the SJW 101's? If we're talking about inside baseball stuff too, we talk about the fake news video.
Yeah, totally, I did.
So do you want to summarize that then for the audience, and then we can talk about it?
I shall do such a thing. So SJW 101 Gamer something, is that his name? Is that his channel's name?
The Political Gamer, maybe? It's a long name.
I'll find out what it is. But yeah, he made a video about Mr. Boring the Bear Man and his acceptance of fake news. And I think this kind of feeds into the whole just accepting something because it affirms your pre-established conclusions. You know, it goes along with what you already believe, so just accept it. You know, without any criticism. In the same way that, you know, people just support Milo or whatever because those people, you know, affirm their pre-established belief.
That rug really tied the room together, man. Tied it all together, you know. Like their disbelief or their willingness to believe ties together all of their beliefs, just like the room and the rug and the Big Lebowski.
It's really tied to the room. I love that movie, man.
I love that line.
Oh, so good, dude, man. Hold on. So his channel name is SJW 101, the Political Gamer. And so he made this video about Boring the Bear Man. Sorry, he who made one of these kind of reactionary videos to an article posted on the Daily Mail, which, as we all know, is a fantastic source of quality journalism. Oh, we lost Kevin. That's good. And the article was talking about how I think the title was something like, you know, doctors now have to refer to pregnant mothers. They can't refer to them as pregnant mothers anymore. They can only refer to them as pregnant people because it might be offensive to some trans people who might be, you know, be or get pregnant and come into the hospital. And Bering was all, you know, well, that's fucking stupid. You can't force people to call free speech, even though there's only been one trans person who's had a baby, completely, you know, and so took this article and held it up or whatever, and being like, oh, this is just fucking, you know, regressive people, you know, PC culture, ignoring the fact that the article was just bullshit. And it was based on like a very small part of this guidelines manual that a certain hospital has that recommends to its doctors or, you know, the people, you know, the doctors actually know things so they can make those decisions themselves, but just the people working in the hospital that suggest that instead of calling people pregnant mothers, they call them pregnant people. And it's just basically
if they're a trans person, I think that was also, it was just, don't refer to someone who's trans and pregnant as an expectant mother.
It was basically exercise some human decency. And this is offensive to Bering for some reason. Sorry, Boring the Bear Man.
Well, funnily enough, the Daily Mail and human decency is pretty incompatible as well. So not surprised it's a good source from there. But if you take your article from the Daily Mail, like with no other sources to back it up at all, like you can't be taking that person's analysis or sources at least seriously. Like the list of things the Daily Mail have done is extensive, but like, and especially when we report on issues like that too, like in terms of LGBT rights, the Daily Mail have an atrocious record. I mean, in fact, as recently as last year, they were like, when in the case of like, I don't want to go too off topic, but with Brexit, like one of the judges ruled that it had to go through Parliament through a vote. Like they ran a story, one of the judges that was titled like, "Oh, the judge is openly gay," like as one of the like descriptors. Like,
What?
and so somehow that would make you like, oh well, before I respected the judges, but then I found out he was gay, and I lost all respect for him. Like that should tell you enough, like about what the Daily Mail is essentially. It's like a slightly watered down version of Breitbart, but in the UK, and like done up a bit, so it's like a bit tends to be a bit higher like esteem than Breitbart, I guess.
It's less anti-Semitic though. I'll give them that.
What a thing.
Well,
to
you
say.
know, Michael, you said one thing which I think sums it up well. That you read the headline and go, "That sounds fucking stupid." And when I read a headline and that's my reaction, I just Google the phrase and I look to see if there are other sources of reporting the same thing. You know, and I'll check it out because especially now with the phrase fake news dominating so much of, at least in the United States, political discussion, the phrase is global. And so we have to be aware of fake news. And I think especially people who put stuff up on channels where they have subscribers in the hundreds of thousands, they have a really, everyone has due diligence, I think, when it comes to reporting on their sources. But when you've got that much of an audience who you know are going to react in a certain way, then you have even more responsibility to make sure you have your facts right. And this credulousness because of expecting things like this to be true rather than asking if they are true is I just see that on that side, and I don't see it in the videos that we make. I don't see anything parallel to what's going on, on that side with people like Sargon and his inability to read studies and Bering.
Who are we talking about here?
Boring the Bear Man.
I'm surprised he's still making videos because I thought with the season he'd have been hibernating, surely.
He's in the southern hemisphere, Kevin. You and your northern hemisphere bias,
Yeah.
privilege. Check your privilege, Kevin.
You don't
It's
get
pretty
bears.
freaking hot here.
And is he an immigrant bear?
I think he might be. Those Australians allowing immigrants all the time.
Oh, you don't want to be in Australia, do you, with a big fur coat like that? Oh, you'll sweat your balls.
We too hot. It's basically it's basically what Sargon does all the time as well. Like I remember the first time I kind of looked at Sargon's stuff and looked at the ridiculous, like his just no skepticism about stuff at all, just reacting to titles of stuff or the first the first 5 minutes of a video and making your thing from that. It's like what?
Yeah. The prime example of that, wasn't it, last week or the week before with Tim's video, where he spent an hour ranting and only got 15 minutes into Tim's video and just gave up.
Yeah, exactly.
The best bit was at the end when he actually shows the meltdown. That was the best bit, and Carl can't last more than 3 Sargons, so.
Which I feel sorry for his wife.
Yeah, me too.
No, we're not into sex jokes. Okay, fair enough.
I always just imagine that he can't get off anymore because he's exhausted. He used to do it to like harassing people. He'd get off from that, and then he used to do it to his files of gay porn that he's got stashed there for political purposes. Those are for political purposes, but that doesn't give him a hard on anymore as well.
Yeah,
so now he's
your
just
video, that screenshot you had of people with
Yep, Kev's gone. On trans issues, because we kind of touched on that, I suppose. What did I want to say about that? I mean, I made a video about trans issues, or just the acceptance of trans people and non-binary genders or sexes. What do you guys think about those things? Contentious topic.
Well, I see it as very much the same sort of thing as the sort of like anti-gay, anti like gay marriage sentiments you got in like the early 2000s and like before that as well, obviously. But
Yeah.
I saw a good tweet actually a while back, which was essentially saying that when you say like, oh, well, I identify as an Apache helicopter as a response to a non-binary gender, it's the same sort of thing as, oh, if you can marry a man, I can marry a goat. Like it's the same sort of like unintelligent, like stock
Yeah, yeah.
response, which just shows that you have no real counteract other than like your insecurity about difference to your own standards.
Well, actually, yeah, the reason I was, yeah, that's right. The reason I was thinking about it is because I watched a couple of videos about do you guys know the PBS Ideas channel with Mike, what's his face?
Mike, what's his face? Yeah, that one, that guy, that Mike.
Yeah.
I can't remember his last name. He did a video a while ago about The Sims and its and how you can't The Sims 4 and how you can't.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
I
So
saw the title.
yeah. I think I linked it to you guys at some point, but you can or you could you know, you could choose either male or female, but they couldn't do things that kind of don't align with their assigned gender or whatever. You know, a man couldn't wear a dress, or a woman couldn't wear like sweatpants, or not sweatpants. You know, like some stuff. Anyway, so the point was that that it was kind of odd that The Sims, being a very progressive game, wasn't doing that. And then there was a follow-up video to that because The Sims changed their thing, which allowed you to choose different things about your sim that wouldn't necessarily assign them a gender, but it would be things like, can the sim have a baby or not? Can the sim oh god, there were a bunch of things. And so then you could have like a different things that made the person's gender identity a little bit more complex than just male or female, right? And then one of the quotes from this video, which I thought was kind of great, which is, it's possible and in many situations may be preferable to understand non-gender conforming sims, and humans for that matter, without preoccupation over what gender expression subheader they fit into and how that subheader relates to their anatomy. And I thought that was great because so many of the comments on my my video about this topic was people just being upset at the fact that they weren't able to tell what someone's gender was. You know?
Building on Owen's point, the parallel he drew, I had a similar reaction, but with a slightly different sort of focal nexus of the turn, which is people who opposed marriage equality would argue that marriage was between a man and a woman, and people who are resistant to trans equality are saying there can only be two genders, you know, one for men and one for women. And for me, it's the same rigidity in thinking. But you know, for me, the question is a question of humanism, and I don't see how you can call yourself a humanist and think that human flourishing is the best goal that we can have for ourselves as a species, also in our integration into the ecological system of this planet, and then say, you know, use transphobic comments or put transphobic comments in the thumbnails of your video.
Yeah. It's like I don't get where the drive to like prove there's only two genders comes from. It's like it's the same thing with gay marriage, as you said. Like there's no negative repercussions from like someone saying, "Oh, I actually don't identify as male or female." It's not like your maleness or your femaleness is like crumble up, or like you start clutching your chest because suddenly you being male has been lessened by the third gender. Like it's not something that matters in the long run, really. Like what gender someone is. It's not going to have an impact on someone else's life. And we as a society, regardless of where you stand politically, should want more people happier and incorporated into society. And if your reaction to someone's gender not being male or female, or someone being trans or whatever, is to like throw loads of abuse at them, deliberately misgender them, to deliberately like try and make their life worse in some way, then that should act as a reflection of you. Like, surely.
Well, yeah.
And
See,
on
that's
that,
the thing.
sorry, can I make a complaint about
Sure.
Bearing and then let you go? One of the things that galled me about his response to something, I think it was the reaction, might have been to you, Michael, and he brought up the fact that he was such a good person because when Micaiah had a financial crisis, Bering gave him some money, and then in the video where he's talking about what a good person he is, he misgenders him twice.
Yeah.
And
I'm
you
like,
know, it's
how
not like
difficult
that
is
was
that, dude?
live. Yeah, he could edit that. He could have asked. You know, it's you could look it up. You know, how should you address a trans person if you don't know? Use they. No, he chose that on purpose because it's a wink and a nod to his audience.
I mean, like I said I did another video about racism, sexism, transphobia, and all that sort of thing. Perpetuation of bad ideas or harmful ideas towards trans people is transphobic, you know, and that's what Bering does. He says these things, and it probably happens with other guys as well, but I haven't seen it so much. But you know, or no, so Blair White does it as well. You know, perpetuating bad ideas, like exclusatory ideas about transness. You know, when Blair White says to her audience, you know, you're only trans if you try and transition or if you have dysphoria, then her fans take that on board, and then they go to they then that idea informs their decisions about life. And so then you see comments at the top of videos, like I saw a comment at the top of a Riley Dennis video where she is having a hangout with her girlfriend, and someone's the very top comment on there is, this isn't a queer relationship, this is a guy and a girl. And I'm like, fuck you. You know, you're deliberately misgendering someone and being malicious about it, and that opinion is informed by affirmed by these people with big audiences who perpetuate these harmful ideas. And I think that's fucking. They need to have some take some responsibility about the things they say. They can't just go around, you know, saying, "Oh, chicks with dicks." It's so funny. Oh, it's funny. Fuck off.
No, the comment sections of Riley Dennis and Maya Stewart just show there's no rationality whatsoever in like the majority of these people's arguments. Like they're such a state. Like, I feel so bad for them because like unless you disable comments, how are you going to get rid of these like leeches who literally comment
Just
to try and
come to
make
your
their
channel for
life
that shit,
miserable?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was just going to say that when you deliberately misgender somebody, not a slip of the tongue, you know, but you go out of your way to do it or make a joke out of it or decide not to, then you're delegitimizing them.
Yeah.
And that again goes against the foundational principles of humanism. So this is why you can't, you know, use these kinds of terms.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt.
And call yourself a humanist. I don't want to. Yeah, thank you for not cutting me off, because otherwise I'd say Kristi said you shouldn't use these terms and call yourself a humanist.
Okay. I was just going to say that I really don't get the level of vitriol that is poured out about this, because you think, how difficult is it just to refer to someone as the gender they've chosen? Or, well, not they've chosen, but they've assigned. You know, they declare themselves to be. Why is that an issue for you?
Well, this whole thing is trotted out about
that's a massive imposition on you at all.
Well, it's an infringement of free speech again, and there's this whole thing of like people being charged, you know, $25,000 or something if you misgender someone. But it's
which is not true. Say that, you know, add the thing that it's about hiring and it's only for companies, and you add all that too.
it's about not being a dick. You know, you don't go around finding, you know, even like say there are just two genders, you don't go around talking to women and calling them men. You don't do that. You know, that's just human decency. It's basic human decency. And that's the difference between misgendering someone. It's not just misgendering someone. It's being a dick about it. It's purposefully misgendering
and not just that, but from the perspective of these really evil fuckers who go on about it being a mental disorder or whatever, if we grant that it is just for a brief second, what that then means is that you are mocking someone for being mentally unwell.
Oh, but that's okay. You know, you can use autism as a pejorative, because, you know, autism people are stupid.
Well, exactly. It says a lot of people, but you're having to defend free speech to like justify your mockery and heartlessness to people you dislike politically, or
well, this
social
a
progress
point.
or whatever.
Yeah, a point I made in a recent video that I think bears repeating. If you're only ever interested in defending bigoted speech and you're not interested in anyone else's speech, then you're not interested in free speech. You're interested in bigotry.
Yep.
And what is the end goal here? To change their minds? What is the purpose of this resistance? You know, what does it gain you by not using the correct pronoun? The cost benefit analysis here to your relationships with other people, even just common courtesy with strangers, seems to be much higher if you just treat people with respect than if you go out of your way to point out that you object to the way that they feel, the person they feel they are. I don't
Because
get how that's somehow sacred.
Because this is asking people to be reflective. This is asking people to take a more nuanced approach to things, and they can't. They deal in black and white. That is it.
It raises
Male and female, straight and gay, I suppose, whatever. Like they
Let's be honest.
really simple for them. They've worked. Basically, they did all of their social calculation by the age of about 10, and are not prepared to move from that age range at all. It's ridiculous.
And let's be honest, it's not just male and female. It's male. Like Go Femme Yourself says in her video, it's males are allowed to have their opinions about things, but then when a woman comes along and has her opinion, she gets.
No,
you know,
I meant just in terms of what exists.
I know. But if you take that statement, you
their
think
perception
that
of reality is, like I say, formulated by about the age of 10, and they're not prepared to accept anything that might be slightly different from that, because that would then mean they would have to reflect upon maybe they're wrong about something. Oh no.
Yeah, to ask questions, it would raise questions of themselves to ask why they're like going out of their way to make someone else's life miserable. If they thought about why they were doing it deep down, then maybe it would make them uncomfortable about the person they are. But
they're not doing it to they're not doing it to make people miserable. They're doing it because they're right. Because science says that there's only two, and they have to correct people. That's why they're doing it.
These scientific studies.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the fat shaming thing. They only do that because they're interested in the health of the people. That's why they go out of their way to insult them, because that'll definitely help the self-esteem of the person who's going to have to rely on self-esteem in order to try and get that weight down. Brilliant. Well done.
And also, these people like, science says this, and then let's go and vote for Republicans who, like, we're all Trump fans who, like, we don't happily defund your science institutes and like don't care about that, but we care about science suddenly when it means we have to deprove the existence of a gender.
Right. I mean, science is to be held up when it comes to issues on, the theory of evolution, but suddenly when science says there are intersex people and medical associations recognize transitioning as something that people do, as a, something that is as medical treatment that can help people have better lives, then
we all know that science is funded by George Soros, so we can ignore that.
And the feminists. It's part of the feminist system.
Yep.
I can't wait till all my George Soros shill money comes in. I must be in for fucking millions now.
Who is this George Soros guy? People are talking about him. I don't really know what that's all about. What is it?
Oh, right. He's originally a Hungarian, Jewish guy who now lives in America, multi-billionaire.
Already makes
He's not a particularly nice chap, but basically the right wing think that he is paying for everything the left wing does, and that he's some sort of Illuminati master plan man, because he's Jewish and B, he's rich. So obviously that means he's obviously the Zog machine master or whatever.
Okay, well,
he does fund, I should say, not run, but he funds a few progressive causes, but it doesn't even touch what the Koch brothers put into their political organizations. And
not just that, but they all they make out like they said that they paid everyone on the Women's March. Really? Because I know
all paid protesters.
Yeah, they didn't get paid shit.
And George Soros paid for all of that. Was that Glenn Beck or was that Alex Jones? It's hard to tell them apart.
I think that was Alex Jones, He put out a video called something absurd like the Women's March funded by neo-Nazi Soros. Brilliant. How'd you get a neo-Nazi? That's genius. I love it.
Donald Trump listens to that guy.
I suppose that's how we know we've reached a level of equality, when you get Jewish neo-Nazis.
Ironically,
Milo's Jewish, isn't he? And he's a neo-Nazi.
Well, he's Jewish, as it is. His mother was Jewish, but he's a Catholic bigot.
Yeah.
So technically he and not just that, but he's an old school Catholic bigot. So technically he believes his mother killed Christ. Brilliant.
Cool.
Ironically,
But yeah, there's
the
a lot of
people
there's a
who
lot of faith behind the positions that people take. And again, I think we have to use the skeptic community as we do in quotes, because they're not actually skeptical of their claims. You kind of go down the list and you think about people who put up sources that they've actually read and analyzed and broken down during the course of the video on that side of the debate. I can't think, maybe Tildeer, well, he kind of does a bit slightly more upscale video, but really a lot of this stuff is just predetermined worldview combined with faith.
TLD is an idiot as well, though. Like, have you seen Sean and Jen's thing about?
Yeah, I'm just saying he tries a bit harder. I'm not saying he's good at it. He doesn't
I don't know if he
understand social
does though,
science.
because I mean, like I've seen Sargon read through things as well. Like he read through things.
Yeah, they do read
And-
out things that other people have written. A lot.
Yeah, but yeah, I imagine it seems to me that TLD just does the same friggin' thing. Like he'll just, but in much so boring a way.
I can be moved on this. You can convince me. Yeah, I'm open to your arguments.
I mean, Kristi, if you'd watched my series, Truth or TLD, you'd
Truth
know.
or yeah.
Okay,
On that note,
you're right.
If anyone wants theme music written for their YouTube channels, just flick me a message. I can do that. Well, at a cost, of course. I'm not going to do it for free, but I am a working.
Well,
musician
then you're right. I retract my earlier elevation from absolute nonsense to slightly, sourced nonsense on the Tildeer assertion. I'll withdraw that.
He likes to think that he's super smart and rational, but there's just nothing. There's nothing there.
See, now what you did was you made a better argument. I recognized the validity of your better argument, and I changed my mind.
Science.
White knight of the manosphere. White knight. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
Hey. So on the topic of believing things and not changing your mind about it, I was having another nice rational discussion with someone on my comment section about autism. I can't remember where I said the thing. Oh, I think it was in my last video. Talking about autism and about how people think of it as abnormal and all this sort of business. And because it was in relation to the that meme, the autistically screeching fucking piece of bullshit. And in that I said to it that it portrays this idea that autistic people are like weird and abnormal and they can't interact properly with normal people, quote unquote normal people. And this person took objection to that, the fact that autism is abnormal, that they can't interact with normal people. What do y'all think?
I think that absolutely there should be the lack of understanding around autism.
Yes,
is quite staggering from people who are so pro-science, supposedly, again, but then have no understanding of disabilities. Otherwise, they wouldn't so liberally use retarded and words like that in their dialogue. But I think it's a really interesting one, because I reckon because autism is not some really rare thing. It's got in quite a lot of people, and I reckon there's a good number of people who are perhaps disagreeing with feminism. You probably watch a lot of the people like Bering and Sargon and whoever, and they hear they see that meme where it's autistic screeching with the guy crouching. They see every other video from Bering with retarded feminist or spastic and blazingly put across the title, and they must start to wonder, oh well, this is a bit iffy, because I'm autistic and or that person is autistic, and they're being.
Are you armchair diagnosing Sargon of Akkad?
No, not not Sargon. I meant a person watching it who.
Well, that's what that's the other thing I said is it just what are the people who are autistic who see this stuff gonna think? You're creating a hostile environment for those people, which is gonna exclude people from the discourse. You know.
I'm not autistic myself, but my mother works. She's a nurse. She works with people who have disabilities, and it does not everyone with it is some social leper. It's it's a vastly ranging thing. It's not these people just have various disabilities with different parts of their life. Either
I'm gonna trigger some people here, but autism is a spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just
the big words and the big ideas. No. It's
it
just
doesn't.
abnormal. We can't add nuance to the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, and also just for clarity, I think it's 1 in 63 people or children who are diagnosed in America at this point with autism. So I don't really see how you can call that abnormal. You
I
know,
can speak from personal experience. I
hit
had a
me.
cousin who was severely autistic. She died tragically young, like in her early 20s, and she was a very difficult child and young woman, and there was a high degree of care needs. But when she died, her mother had her name tattooed on her body, and she misses her daughter every day. So I have experience with that range. And then, as you say, on the spectrum, I had students who had autism. A friend of mine has Asperger's, and actually, my friend it was a woman, and she wasn't diagnosed by the NHS until her early 30s. And that was why I paid attention to the comment about the diagnosing of women with autism that, excuse me, Carl chose to make fun of.
Mm.
And the thing with my friend was I always just thought she was quite quirky, and sometimes I didn't get her jokes or something. And when she got her diagnosis, it was like when they flip the lens when you're doing an eye test and suddenly you see everything clearly. I'm like, oh my gosh, you make sense to me now, because now I understand where you're coming from. We're just perceiving the world in different ways. And now that I understand that, when you say something, I'll know how to interpret it. So, the idea that you can just, first of all, when they talk about artistic screeching, we're talking about usually a child who's in a high degree of distress.
Mm.
I don't think that that's something to be laughing at. I react
Mm.
empathetically to that, because that person is suffering and they're in pain and they're upset. And my first reaction is not to laugh. So there's just so many levels on which I find that particular slur, what's the word I'm looking for?
Informed?
Contemptuous, I think,
Yeah.
and lacking empathy, which is a common theme of behavior that we've
Yeah.
talked about tonight.
Just as a side note, Garrett pointed out what I was going to point out as well, because I wasn't quite sure, but Asperger's isn't a thing anymore. It's all just part of the autism spectrum, as far as I'm
Okay.
aware.
Well, I've
So
been out teaching, since like the early part, mid 2000s. So I'm sure they've updated the terms, and I'm behind the times because I'm not in the classroom anymore. So
no,
I
that's all right.
take
That's all
the
right.
correction. Thank you for the updated terminology.
That's cool. Yeah, I think it comes with a lack of understanding of what autism is and how it affects. And you can have perfectly high functioning people who you might not even realize have autism, but they see the world in a different way. They understand and interact with people in a different way, and that's just kind of how. And like I say, it works on a spectrum. It can be from really really low functioning to very very high functioning, and it to just kind of take it as that thing and be like, oh, autistically screeching, then oh my god, just and so my point was that it's not abnormal if it's affecting so many people, and b, the word abnormal has these negative connotations with it, which, like, if you look at the definition of it, it's like undesirable,
Yeah.
and so when you're saying things about people, about a part of their identity which they have no control over and could be quite an important part of their identity. Some people are very uh, you know about their autism. Yeah, I'm autistic, and that's freaking awesome. I'm just that that's a hurtful, harmful thing to perpetuate. And so I think more different, I suppose, would be how I'd think about it. We're different people, and
Yeah.
that's how the world is. Everyone's different.
Yeah, I like the phrase neuroatypical,
Yeah, yeah, that's a
because
cool
there's
one.
variation. In biology, there is a wide range of variation within members of a species. And there are things that are typical and things that are atypical. And I think that better also encapsulates more of a spectrum, as Garrett had pointed out, rather than a condition, or something along those lines. So
I think
Hi,
the
Garrett.
worst thing is. Well, you go ahead, Kevin. You haven't
I
spoken.
was just going to say hello to Garrett.
Yeah, I think just thinking about, perpetuating the idea that autistic people are these deformed, weird, because that's I mean, that's a way that people probably think about autistic people, right? You know, that and perpetuating that idea is just it's I mean, it's ableism. It's awful ableism, you know?
And othering.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
othering. Yep.
I think the one particularly like nasty element to it is that a lot of people I hear using or speaking about autism don't even really understand like what it is. It's not just a case of them being malicious towards people who they perceive as bad or different. It's a case of literally not having no clue what it is and just thinking of people who are like unable to interact with the rest of the world. Like
People that talk about things that they don't completely understand and say how bad and awful they are, that's a surprise.
And also taking cues from people who use the terms derogatory in a derogatory way
Yeah.
meant to demean people. Yeah, and taking their cues from that.
Yeah, like one example to bring him up in a hangout I saw War Corps have. He refused to or he said that he wouldn't debate someone because they were autistic and it wouldn't be a fair fight. Which like where and he was saying that completely
What?
seriously too. Like he genuinely thought somehow that would impede the person's ability to debate ideas with him.
I think
It's
some of
like
the
you have
smartest
no.
people in the world are actually autistic. So, you know,
Yeah, exactly. Like there are cases of like autism accelerating your ability in like maths and stuff and making you able to focus on certain tasks better. But no, it's just like if you're someone who has an understanding of it, it just becomes like, oh, you're like mentally handicapped.
Mm.
It's ridiculous.
War Corps generally is ridiculous.
yes, quite.
Most favourite lol cow ever.
I was gonna say that I would, I would debate Milo if Milo ever wanted to go on a campus and debate, if that's ever gonna happen. But I wanted to have a double team, and I wanted it to be War Corps and Milo. So they
No,
had
you
to be
don't want a
traded.
double team. You don't want a double team with War Corps, definitely.
Ooh,
And I'm not
gross.
sure Milo's into that thing. You know.
Mm.
Well, to be honest, I think Maya would probably like have to refrain from making fun of War Corps because, like I said earlier, I don't think Milo particularly like enjoys some of the people who follow him, and I reckon a lot of it is just his own vanity rather than his own like actually believing in the ideas. So with War Corps there, like probably screaming anything, I don't think he'd want him as like part of his image. So I don't reckon they'd be a good tag team.
In defense of my proposal, they could bond over their mutual appreciation of gay porn.
True story. We all know how much those guys love their gay porn. Oh,
War Corps especially.
Yes.
does he really?
He's obsessed
Oh,
with
have you not
lesbian.
seen the Manosphere episode?
Yeah, he's
Come on.
But it was
rather
probably.
obsessed with lesbian pornography. He's
Oh,
very.
that okay. Yeah. That sorry. Being the friggin' misogynist that I am, I just automatically thought male on male gay porn.
All right, your default.
I think that
so
tells us all we need to know about Michael.
Yes, it does. It does. Excuse me, I have something I need to do.
Right in your video, the absurd, the fake files you had up on the screen from the anal stretch canal. The fuck? What is that? That's really weird.
I don't want to know, Kevin.
I don't know
Or
why
I
would
can tell you
doing that on
afterwards.
canal. That's
Did I say canal? I can't remember what it was.
unhygienic.
It was something like that.
I think I must have just misspelt channel. That's probably what it was.
Oh right, okay. Well, you
Yeah.
are foolish.
Yeah, I'm very foolish apparently. I didn't
Yeah,
realize
you're
that.
foolish for misspelling it, not for doing fake gay porn jokes.
Get it right next time, Michael. Jeez. If you're gonna make fun. Yeah, no. It's Anal Stretch Central. That's what it is. It's like it's like a cool hangout joint for people who are into that sort of thing. See, you're the one who missaw it. You saw it wrong, so you're the
To
fool.
be fair, I was watching it in bed and I was so tired.
Yeah, you were. Nice.
No,
That's where he
not
watches all your videos, Michael.
Yeah, he
Exactly.
does.
Well, I'm in bed touching myself. Obviously.
You like that fake Ukrainian accent that really gets you going.
Is he Ukrainian? I
Chase.
thought he was Russian. Sorry.
If you'd watched his videos, you would have seen he tells you where he's from.
Well, I watched the video and shut up.
I did a question and answer video. Oh, I'm sorry. Logical Llama did a question and answer video, and someone asked him where he's from, and the mystery was solved. Go and watch
To,
it if you haven't.
To Kevin's joke. Oh, go ahead. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say to Kevin's joke, Chevy Chase had an opening of Saturday Night Live, the news program, once by saying, "Good evening, I'm Chevy Chase, and you're touching yourself." And then you go, "Oh, wait, you're right. Like my elbows are touching my knees. Oh my gosh." Or, my hand is on my leg. I am touching myself. Anyway, sorry, just building on Kevin's joke there. That's all.
Nice. Hey, I think we might have exhausted all of our talking points. What do you guys think? We're getting to about that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we had a pretty decent discussion. That was an hour and a bit. So I might call it there. But it's been super duper fun as always hanging out with these bros. As always with Owen, this is it's so great to continually talk to him all the time. So that was fun. Thanks guys for coming on. You want to say goodbye if you want to?
Bye.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Bye.
And go and check out these guys' channels because they're super duper awesome. And go and give me money on Patreon because I'm nearly at $50 a month. All my famous shill money is coming in. So get onto that. It's great fun. I'll give you things. And join us next time for the next episode of Hanging with Homies. See you all again soon. Bye.